The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador John Miller stood up. His tall figure cast a long shadow across the circular table where representatives from 27 spacefaring species sat watching him. The blue-tinted lights from above reflected off the polished stone surface, giving everyone's face an otherworldly glow. Miller took a deep breath. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes burned with a fire that made several alien delegates shift in their seats. After careful consideration, Miller said, his voice steady and clear, "Earth and all human colonies are withdrawing from these peace talks, effective immediately." The silence lasted only 3 seconds before the chamber erupted. Voices in a dozen different languages shouted questions and protests. Translation devices struggled to keep up, creating a cacophony of overlapping words. Councillor Zix, the 6-limbed representative of the Aldebaran Dominion, rose to his full height. His translucent skin flushed a deep orange with anger. "This is outrageous," Zix's translator conveyed. "We have spent 8 months negotiating these terms. Humanity cannot simply walk away." From across the table, the Arcturus representative, a small gray being with large black eyes, slumped in what looked strangely like relief. Miller noticed this and filed the observation away mentally. Lieutenant Susan Wright, Miller's aide, quietly gathered their data tablets and documents. Her face remained professional, but her fingers moved with practiced speed. They had prepared for this moment. "We can, and we are," Miller replied simply. "Earth's position has been made clear repeatedly. Our sovereignty is non-negotiable. The current proposal would limit our rights to develop our own systems, while placing no such restrictions on the established powers." The Rigelian ambassador, whose crystalline body structure chimed softly when she moved, leaned forward. "Ambassador Miller, perhaps we can address your specific concerns." A brief recess. "No," Miller cut her off. "We've had enough recesses and enough revised proposals. Each one has contained the same fundamental flaws, just hidden under different language." He straightened his blue uniform jacket. "Humanity values peace, but not at the cost of our future. Good day." Miller nodded to Wright, and they walked toward the chamber's massive doors. The guards stationed there looked uncertainly at the council chairperson, unsure if they should block the humans' exit. "If you leave," called out the reptilian delegate from Ta City, "you risk everything. The protection of the Galactic Council cannot be guaranteed to non-signatories." Miller paused at the doorway and turned. The entire room fell quiet again, waiting for his response. "Is that a threat, Counselor?" he asked softly. The reptilian delegate's throat sac inflated nervously. "Merely a statement of fact," it replied. Miller nodded once. "Then let me offer a statement of fact in return. Humanity does not require your protection. We never have." With that, he and Wright exited the chamber. The doors closed behind them with a deep, resonating boom. In the corridor, junior diplomats and aides from various species stared as the 2 humans walked briskly toward the landing bay. No one approached them or tried to speak. The news was already racing through communication channels faster than they could walk. Only when they boarded their shuttle and the doors sealed did Miller finally allow his mask to drop. He sank into his seat with a heavy sigh, running a hand through his graying hair. "That went about as expected," Wright said, securing their diplomatic materials. "Yes," Miller replied, looking out the viewport at the gleaming spires of the galactic capital. Phase 1 complete. As their shuttle detached from the station and accelerated toward the jump point, Miller watched the massive structure recede. The Galactic Council headquarters housed representatives from hundreds of worlds, most of whom believed in its mission of peace and cooperation. "Do you think they know?" Wright asked quietly. "About what we discovered?" Miller's eyes hardened. "Some do." The Arcturus representative looked almost relieved when we announced our withdrawal. "And the others?" "They will learn soon enough," Miller said. "For now, we need to get back to Earth. The real work is just beginning." The shuttle's engines flared brighter as they pushed toward the jump point that would take them home, leaving behind a galactic capital in disarray and a council chamber filled with shock and growing fear. 2 weeks earlier, Captain Richard Bell sat alone in his dim office at Earth Intelligence Headquarters. The glow from his screens cast shadows across his tired face. He rubbed his eyes and looked again at the intercepted message on his display. The translation was rough, but clear enough to worry him. "Computer, run comparison with previous Arcturus communications," he said. The screen flickered and displayed a pattern analysis. Bell leaned forward, his suspicions confirmed. He tapped his communication badge. "Get me Lisa Howard from analysis, please." 15 minutes later, analyst Lisa Howard entered his office carrying her own data tablet. Her normally neat brown hair was messy, suggesting she had been working late too. "You found something?" she asked without preamble. Bell nodded and turned his screen so she could see. "Look at the transmission patterns between the Arcturus ships and their home world. Then compare them with the official diplomatic channels." Howard studied the data, her eyes narrowing. "They're saying one thing in public and something completely different in private." "Exactly," Bell said. "And it's not just Arcturus. I've found similar patterns from the Aldebaran Dominion, the Rigel Compact, and the Tav City Coalition." Howard sat down, her face growing serious. 4 of the major powers, all supposedly negotiating peace while sending encrypted messages outside normal channels. Bell pulled up another screen showing star maps and fleet movements. "Look here. While their diplomats talk about disarmament, their military ships are quietly moving closer to our outer colonies." "They're planning something," Howard said. It wasn't a question. "I think the peace talks are a distraction," Bell replied. "They want us focused on negotiations while they position their forces. The treaty terms they're pushing would limit our fleet movements and weapons development, but I can't find any similar restrictions on their side." Howard scrolled through more data. "We need to bring this to General Moore. This changes everything." The next morning, Bell and Howard stood at attention in General Patricia Moore's office. The general was a short woman with steel-gray hair cut close to her scalp. Her uniform bore the marks of 30 years of service. "You're certain about this?" Moore asked after they presented their findings. "Yes, General," Bell replied. "The evidence shows coordinated communication and fleet movements that contradict their stated peaceful intentions." Moore walked to her window and looked out at the Pentagon courtyard. "Our diplomats have been making concession after concession to keep these talks going. If what you're saying is true, we've been negotiating away our defenses while they prepare for possible aggression. The timing suggests they're waiting for the treaty to be signed," Howard added. "Once we're bound by the terms, our response options would be limited." Moore turned back to them. "Do we know their specific plans? Are they planning an actual attack?" Bell shook his head, not definitively. But the positioning of their forces would give them tactical advantages if they did. The general sat heavily in her chair. "We can't accuse them without more concrete evidence. That would collapse the talks immediately and potentially trigger the very conflict we're trying to avoid." "We need more intelligence," Bell suggested. "Targeted operations to confirm their intentions." Moore nodded slowly. "I'll authorize a covert operation. Small teams, maximum deniability. If they detect us, it can't look like an official Earth action." "I have people who can handle it," Bell assured her. "Meanwhile," Moore continued, "we can't tell the diplomatic team yet. Ambassador Miller and his people need to continue as if nothing has changed. If the aliens suspect we know, they might accelerate their plans." Howard frowned. "So our diplomats keep making concessions to buy us time." "For now," Moore said grimly. "But start contingency planning. If these peace talks are a sham, we need to be ready for what comes after." As Bell and Howard left the general's office, they passed a wall of screens showing the peace talks. Ambassador Miller was speaking earnestly about humanity's commitment to galactic harmony. "He has no idea," Howard said quietly. Bell watched the alien delegates nodding in apparent agreement with Miller's words. "None of them do. And that's our advantage for now." Outside, The Washington sky was bright blue and peaceful. Citizens walked the streets below, unaware that in the darkness between the stars, the threat of war was growing. The military transport carrying Ambassador Miller and Lieutenant Wright landed at Earth's main spaceport outside New Denver. Unlike their departure 2 weeks ago, no reporters waited for them. No cameras recorded their return. This was exactly as planned. A plain black vehicle met them on the landing pad. The driver, a woman in civilian clothes, nodded once and opened the doors without speaking. 20 minutes later, they arrived at a nondescript office building in the government complex. Inside, General Moore waited with Captain Bell and a room full of military officers and intelligence personnel. Miller's diplomatic mask dropped completely as he took in the serious faces around him. "I take it our suspicions were correct," Miller said. Moore nodded. "And then some. Captain Bell will brief you." Bell activated a holographic display showing the human colonial systems and surrounding space. Red dots appeared throughout the map, clustered near Earth's territories. "While you were making peace, they were making war," Bell said simply. "These are confirmed fleet movements over the last 3 months. All major powers involved in the talks have been quietly positioning forces." Miller studied the display, his face grim. No wonder they kept insisting on those defensive limitations in the treaty. "They wanted us blind and bound," Wright said. Moore stepped forward. "The President has authorized full activation of the Sentinel Defense Network." Miller's eyes widened. "That's been dormant for years. Most of the galactic community doesn't even know it exists." "Exactly," Moore replied. "It was our insurance policy. Hidden defense platforms throughout human space, designed to activate simultaneously if needed." In a massive underground facility, 2,000 miles away, Admiral Frank Johnson stood in the Sentinel Control Center. Screens lit up around him as dormant systems came online across human territory. Technicians worked at their stations, running diagnostics on equipment that had waited silently for years. "Status report," Johnson called out. 82% of platforms responding, Admiral," a young officer replied. "The rest are coming online now. No detection by foreign sensors yet." Johnson nodded, satisfied. "Keep it that way. We need the element of surprise." On the other side of the complex, engineer Olivia Garcia led her team through the massive hangar where mothballed warships were being restored to service. The air smelled of metal and ozone as welding tools flashed and systems hummed to life. "Focus on defense systems first," Garcia instructed her crews. "Shields, point defense, and early warning. Weapons are secondary for now." A junior engineer approached her. "Ma'am, we've got the Valiant's propulsion systems online, but the targeting computers are outdated. They won't match current alien defenses." Garcia handed him a data chip. "Install this upgrade. It's based on intelligence gathered from recent encounters. It should even the odds." Across Earth and throughout the colonies, similar scenes played out. Military personnel were quietly recalled from leave. Civilian defense drills increased. Supply chains were secured. All done with minimal public attention. In the White House Situation Room, President Carol Martinez met with her Security Council. The room was sealed against any possible surveillance. "The intelligence is conclusive," Martinez said. "The Arcturus Collective and their allies never intended these talks to succeed. They plan to contain us while building up forces for a possible first strike. The public will panic if this gets out," the Secretary of State warned. "Which is why they won't know until necessary," Martinez replied. "For now, we prepare in silence." She turned to her military advisor. "What's our readiness timeline?" "The Sentinel network is almost fully operational," he answered. "Fleet mobilization will take another week without alerting foreign intelligence. Ground forces are ready now." Martinez nodded. "And our diplomatic options?" Ambassador Miller, joining via secure video link, spoke up. "I recommend one final attempt. A bold counter-proposal that will either force them to reveal their true intentions or back down." "And if they don't back down?" someone asked. Miller's expression hardened. Then humanity will be ready for what comes next. As the meeting continued, the sun set over Washington, D.C. Citizens enjoyed their evening, unaware that their government was quietly preparing for the possibility of interstellar war. In the night sky above, stars twinkled peacefully, hiding the growing tensions and the darkness between them. Ambassador John Miller sat at the head of a long table in a secure room deep within the Earth Defense Headquarters. Maps and data screens covered the walls. 8 people joined him, his core diplomatic team. They had been working for 36 hours straight. "Let's review one more time," Miller said, his voice rough from too much talking and too little sleep. Alan White, the chief negotiator, stood up. He was a tall man with dark skin and keen eyes that missed nothing in diplomatic sessions. "Our counterproposal has 3 main points," White began. "First, all species must agree to mutual defense inspections. This means their military installations become as open to our observers as ours would be to theirs." Nickel Brown, an expert in interstellar law, continued. "Second, fleet limitations must apply equally to all signatory powers, not just to newer members of the galactic community. The Arcturus Collective cannot maintain their current force levels while restricting ours. And third," White finished, "any violation by any party releases all parties from treaty obligations. No more of this selective enforcement we've seen in previous agreements." Miller nodded slowly. "They'll never accept it." "No," Brown agreed. "They won't. But that's not the point. The point is to force their hand," Miller said, "to make them reveal their true intentions." Lieutenant Wright, who had been quiet until now, asked the question on everyone's mind. "What if they surprise us and agree?" Miller almost smiled. "Then humanity gets fair treatment and everyone wins. But intelligence suggests that's not their plan." He stood up and looked at each person in turn. "I'll present this proposal alone. No staff, no assistants." Wright started to object, but Miller held up his hand. "It's a calculated message. I arrive alone, they see we're serious. It's also dangerous," White pointed out, "if they decide to detain you." "They won't," Miller said with confidence he didn't entirely feel. "They still need to maintain the appearance of diplomacy. Detaining an ambassador would shatter that illusion." 2 days later, Miller's small diplomatic shuttle approached the massive space station that served as the Galactic Council headquarters. He had made the journey alone, as planned. The familiar sight of the station's gleaming spires and rings no longer inspired wonder in him. Now he saw it only as a beautiful facade hiding ugly truths. The docking procedures took longer than usual. Miller knew they were scanning his shuttle thoroughly, looking for hidden weapons or devices. They would find none. When he finally walked into the Grand Council chamber, the effect was exactly as he had hoped. A wave of whispers spread among the alien delegates as they noticed his solitary entrance. No aides, no security, no support staff. In diplomatic terms, it was both a power move and a statement of distrust. "Ambassador Miller," the council chairperson said, surprise evident in their tone. "We did not expect you to return after your dramatic departure." Miller walked calmly to the human delegation's empty table. "I bring a final proposal from Earth and her colonies." He placed a single data crystal on the table. It projected the document above it, visible to all present. "These are our terms," Miller said simply. "They are non-negotiable." The Aldebaran representative's skin flushed dark orange as he read the terms. "This is outrageous. You demand access to our military installations, equal fleet limitations. This upends centuries of established protocol." "Yes," Miller agreed. "It does, because the current protocol serves your interests at our expense." The Regelian ambassador's crystalline form chimed softly as she moved forward. "Ambassador Miller, surely we can find middle ground." "There is no middle ground between fairness and exploitation," Miller interrupted. "These terms create equal security for all parties. If that concept is unacceptable to you, then your true intentions become clear." The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembly. Finally, the council chairperson spoke. "We will need time to consult with our governments regarding these unexpected proposals." Miller had anticipated this response. "Of course, Earth will await your answer. You have 3 standard days." As he turned to leave, he could feel the tension in the room. His mission was accomplished. The delay tactic was exactly what humanity needed, and exactly what they had expected. 3 days passed with no official response to humanity's proposal. Ambassador Miller remained at Earth's embassy on the Galactic Capital Station, waiting. The silence spoke volumes. In a secure communication room, Miller received an encrypted transmission from Earth. Intelligence Officer Jason Harris appeared on the screen. His young face looked tired, but his eyes were alert. "Ambassador, we've detected unusual movement in the Arcturus fleet," Harris reported. 6 of their battle groups have left their home system in the last 12 hours. Miller frowned. "Heading where?" "That's the concerning part," Harris replied. "They're moving along different vectors, but our analysis suggests they could be positioning for rapid jumps to several human colonies. Nothing definitive yet, but the pattern matches pre-attack formations." "Any other movement?" Harris nodded. "The Aldebaran diplomatic transport left the station 4 hours ago, supposedly returning home for consultations. But they're not on a direct course to Aldebaran." Miller absorbed this news. "Keep monitoring. I think we're running out of time." Back on Earth, Admiral Frank Johnson stood in the Fleet Command Center. Large screens showed the positions of human and alien vessels throughout nearby space. Yellow alert indicators flashed at several points where alien ships had moved closer to human territories. "Status of the 7th Fleet?" Johnson asked. "Hidden in the asteroid belt of Alpha Centauri, as ordered," his aide reported. "No sign they've been detected." Johnson nodded. "And the Sentinel network?" "Fully operational but still in passive mode. They won't know it's active until we switch to targeting." The Admiral studied the tactical display. "They're trying to surround us, moving pieces into position before they make their first strike." He tapped his communication badge. "Get me General Moore. Tell her it's time to move to Defense Condition 2. On the colony world New Terra, life continued normally. Farmers tended their fields under the light of a yellow sun, not unlike Earth's. Children played in parks. Workers commuted to jobs. Only a few military personnel knew of the heightened alert status. Beth Collins, a young mother, watched her daughters play at a public garden while reading news on her tablet. A small item caught her attention, something about diplomatic talks and delays. She frowned slightly before being distracted by her children's laughter. The potential crisis remained distant, unreal. Meanwhile, on the Galactic Capital Station, Ambassador Miller was summoned to the council chamber. Only 5 of the usual 27 representatives were present, a calculated insult. The council chairperson handed Miller a data crystal, the combined response of the council to Earth's proposal. Miller inserted the crystal into his reader and quickly scanned the document. His face revealed nothing, but inwardly he felt a grim confirmation of what Earth had suspected. The counter-proposal kept all the restrictions on human military development while adding new ones. It demanded Earth share all defense technology with senior council members, but required nothing similar from them. Most concerning, it requested permanent alien observer bases on all human worlds. It wasn't a peace treaty. It was a surrender document. "This is your unified response?" Miller asked quietly. The Arcturus representative's large black eyes blinked slowly. "It is the best offer humanity will receive. We suggest you accept it promptly." "Was that a threat, Counselor?" "Merely practical advice," the alien replied. "The Council's patience has limits." Miller pocketed the data crystal, as does humanity's. "I will transmit this to Earth immediately." As he walked back to the embassy, Miller's secure communication device vibrated. A message from Captain Bell. "Arcturus fleet now in motion toward Neptune outposts. Aldebaran forces moving toward Alpha Centauri. Recommend immediate withdrawal." Miller quickened his pace, In his mind, he had already composed the message he would soon deliver to the Council, humanity's final rejection of their terms. Diplomacy had failed, just as they had expected it would. He entered the embassy and ordered an immediate secure channel to Earth. Alert the President, he told his staff. Tell her it's time for Phase 3. The clock was ticking toward conflict, and humanity would not be caught unprepared. The first attack came at Earth's Neptune outposts. 15 Arcturus warships appeared from jump points and launched immediate strikes against the orbital stations. Their energy weapons flashed across the darkness of space, hitting the seemingly unprepared human facilities. In the Arcturus command ship, Fleet Commander Zix watched with satisfaction as the first station's lights flickered and died. Direct hit on their main power core, his weapons officer reported. No return fire. As expected, Zix said. Continue the attack pattern. All Neptune outposts must be neutralized before they can alert Earth defense forces. What the Arcturus forces didn't know was that the stations had been evacuated 3 days earlier. In their place, automated defense systems waited silently, gathering data on Arcturus weapons and tactics. When the 5th Arcturus ship moved into position to fire, Admiral Johnson, watching from Earth Command, gave the order. Activate Sentinel Network, Neptune Sector. Across the Neptune system, hidden defense platforms suddenly powered up. They had been disguised as maintenance satellites, asteroid mining equipment, and debris from old space ventures. Now they revealed their true purpose. The Arcturus ships had no warning. Precision energy beams cut through their shields, calibrated to the exact frequencies needed to penetrate their defenses. Automated missiles launched, too many to intercept. Commander Zix stared in disbelief at the tactical display as 3 of his ships vanished in bright flashes. Impossible, he shouted. Their defense grid was supposed to be offline for the treaty inspection. Multiple weapon signatures detected, his sensor officer called out, voice rising in panic. They're coming from positions all around us. Retreat, Zix ordered. All ships, emergency jump to rally point Sigma. Only 7 of the 15 Arcturus ships managed to escape. Near Alpha Centauri, a similar scene played out. The Aldebaran forces, moving toward Earth's most important colony, found themselves suddenly outmaneuvered. Captain Laura Davis and the 7th Fleet emerged from hiding in the system's asteroid belt, appearing behind the alien formation. All ships engage as planned, Davis ordered from her command chair. Target their propulsion systems first, weapons second. The human fleet had been waiting in powered-down mode for days, using the asteroids to mask their energy signatures. Now they attacked with perfect coordination, the result of countless drills and preparations. The Aldebaran ships, caught between the human fleet and the planet's defense grid, suffered heavy losses before retreating. Back on Earth, President Martinez addressed an emergency session of the United Earth Government. Less than 1 hour ago, forces from the Arcturus Collective and the Aldebaran Dominion launched unprovoked attacks against human outposts, she announced. These attacks coincided with their rejection of our fair and balanced treaty proposal. Displays around the chamber showed footage of the battles, carefully edited to hide the extent of humanity's preparations. Fortunately, our defense forces were able to repel these initial strikes. Martinez continued, but make no mistake, this was only the beginning. We now have proof of what we long suspected. The peace talks were a sham, designed to keep us distracted while they prepared for war. In homes across Earth and the colonies, citizens watched the news with shock and fear. What had seemed like distant diplomatic talks now transformed into an immediate threat. On a mining colony in the Ta City system, workers gathered around screens showing the president's address. Among them stood a man who appeared to be just another miner. In reality, he was Agent Keller of Earth Intelligence, positioned there months earlier based on cryptic data suggesting the system held special importance. Keller slipped away from the crowd and entered a secure communication room hidden in his quarters. Neptune and Alpha Centauri attacks confirmed, he reported to Earth Command. Request permission to begin Phase 2 of Operation Oracle. The response came instantly. Permission granted. Find the artifact. Keller nodded to himself. The real mission, the one behind all the diplomatic maneuvering and military positioning, was about to begin. The battle for Ta City raged for 3 days. Human ships fought to hold the system, while Arcturus and Aldebaran forces pushed forward with unexpected determination. The mining colony, once thought unimportant, had suddenly become the most contested territory in the war. In the midst of the fighting, Agent Keller led a small team through an abandoned section of the colony's main asteroid. They followed old mining tunnels that hadn't been used in decades. "The energy readings are getting stronger," said Keller, checking his scanner. "Whatever they've been hiding, it's just ahead." They reached a massive metal door that looked much newer than the surrounding tunnel. It bore no human markings. "This wasn't in any colony blueprints," one team member noted. "No," Keller agreed, "because humans didn't build it." Back on Earth, Communications Officer Eric Taylor sat at his station in the main intelligence center. For days, he had been working to decrypt the strange transmissions they'd intercepted between Arcturus ships. "There's a pattern here," he muttered to himself, adjusting his algorithms. "They keep referencing something called the Legacy." His computer suddenly beeped as the final encryption layer broke. Taylor's eyes widened as he read the decoded messages. "Get me Captain Bell," he said urgently into his comm unit. "I know what they're fighting for." On the front lines near Alpha Centauri, human and alien ships exchanged fire. The initial human advantage was fading as more enemy reinforcements arrived. Admiral Johnson watched the tactical displays with growing concern. His communication officer turned to him. "Admiral, priority message from Earth Intelligence." Johnson read the information and immediately opened a secure channel to all fleet commanders. "All ships, this is Admiral Johnson. We have new intelligence about our primary objective. Ta City is now our main focus. I need the 3rd and 5th fleets to disengage and jump immediately to these coordinates." In the Ta City tunnels, Keller's team finally breached the hidden door. What they found inside stunned them into silence. The chamber was enormous, carved from the asteroid's core. Inside stood structures of gleaming metal and crystal, pulsing with soft blue light. The architecture was like nothing human or any known alien species had built. "This technology is beyond anything we've seen," whispered one of the team's scientists. "These energy signatures don't match any known power source." Keller moved toward a central console. "This is what they've been hiding. Technology from someone that came before any of us." In the space above, more human ships arrived through jump points. The alien forces fought with renewed desperation to maintain their position around the asteroid. Aboard the command ship, Ambassador Miller joined Admiral Johnson in the war room. Miller had been recalled from the diplomatic mission to help understand the wider implications of what they'd found. "How long do you think they've known about this?" Johnson asked. "Years, maybe decades," Miller replied, examining the images transmitted from Keller's team. "The treaty restrictions suddenly make sense. They wanted to keep us from exploring deep space so we wouldn't find places like this. Or technologies like this," Johnson added. On the communications deck, Eric Taylor made another breakthrough. His hands moved quickly across his console as he intercepted and decoded more alien transmissions. "Sir," he called out to his superior, "I found something else. They'd been sharing this technology among themselves, the Council's senior members only. They've been using it to advance their own civilizations, while keeping it from newer species like us." Taylor pulled up more decoded files. "And there's more. This isn't the only site. There are others, spread across dozens of systems, all controlled by the senior council members, all kept secret from species like humans." Miller's face hardened as he realized the full extent of the deception. They never wanted peace. They wanted to keep us contained, to prevent us from discovering what they've been hiding all along. "What do we do with this information?" Johnson asked. Miller thought for a moment, then made his decision. "We broadcast it. To everyone, everywhere. The Council has betrayed not just humanity, but every species they've kept in the dark. He turned to the communications officer. Prepare a system-wide broadcast on all frequencies, all languages. It's time the entire galaxy learned the truth. 6 months after humanity's broadcast revealed the truth about the ancient technology, the galactic landscape had changed forever. Ambassador John Miller stood at the viewport of his ship, looking at the rebuilt Galactic Council station. The structure was the same, but everything else was different. "We're ready to dock, Ambassador," Lieutenant Wright said from behind him. Miller nodded. "Any update on the attendance?" 17 species confirmed, including 3 former Council senior members. The rest are boycotting. As expected, Miller said. The human ship docked smoothly at the station. Unlike Miller's last visit, this time he brought a full delegation. Scientists, military officers, and diplomats followed him through the corridors. Many aliens they passed stopped to watch them with a mixture of respect and wariness. The council chamber had been rearranged. Instead of the hierarchical seating that once placed senior members in privileged positions, the new arrangement formed a true circle. All seats were identical. As the human delegation entered, representatives from the Proxima world stood in greeting. The blue-skinned aliens had been among the first to side with humanity after the revelation. Their ambassador approached Miller with open hands. "Earth honors its promises," the Proxima ambassador said, "unlike others we could name." Across the chamber, representatives from the Arcturus Collective sat in uncomfortable isolation. Once leaders of the Council, they now found themselves pariahs. Their attack on humanity had failed spectacularly, and the revelation of their technology hoarding had cost them their allies. The Aldebaran representative was missing entirely. Their government had collapsed after internal protests when their citizens learned the truth about the suppressed technologies. As the session began, Miller took his place at the human seat. On the table before him sat a small device, a prototype shield generator based on the Ta City technology. Similar devices now protected every human world. "This special session of the Reformed Galactic Assembly will now begin," announced the new chairperson from a previously minor species. "Our first order of business is the Technology Sharing Accord." The chamber grew quiet as the chairperson continued. "As proposed by Earth, all discovered legacy technologies will now be documented in a common database, accessible to all member species." The Arcturus representative shifted uncomfortably. "And what of proprietary developments based on those technologies?" Miller spoke up. "Those too. The days of technological hoarding are over." To demonstrate his point, Miller activated the device before him. A holographic display appeared, showing schematics for the planetary shield system humanity had developed. The same system that had made conventional space warfare obsolete virtually overnight. "Earth shares this freely," Miller said, "as a gesture of our commitment to true cooperation." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Such technology would have been jealously guarded by the old council members. After the session, Miller met with representatives from several species in a side chamber. Some had been neutral in the conflict, while others had actually fought alongside the Arcturus forces against humanity. "You could have used this technology to dominate the galaxy," one of them said. "Why share it?" Miller looked around the room. "Because isolation leads to stagnation. The old council members discovered that. They hoarded technology and stopped innovating." "And now?" asked another representative. "Now we all move forward together," Miller replied, "or we all fall behind." On Earth, President Martinez addressed the United Earth government, explaining the new galactic reality to the representatives. "The war is over," she said, "not through military victory alone, but through truth. The revelation of the Council's deception has created a new balance of power." She displayed images of the new technologies being implemented across human space: medical advances, clean energy, faster ships. "The legacy technology has accelerated our development by centuries," she continued. "But our greatest achievement isn't technological. It's diplomatic." For the first time, Humanity is truly recognized as an equal power in the galaxy. In homes across Earth and the colonies, citizens watched with pride. The fear that had gripped them months earlier when the attacks began had transformed into confidence and hope for the future. On the colony world of New Terra, Beth Collins watched her daughters play with a new educational device based on the legacy technology. It helped them visualize complex concepts through interactive holograms. The galaxy had feared humanity when they left the peace talks. Now they respected humanity for bringing true peace.